Some years ago, I dated a girl. The relationship was bad. She was very controlling and abusive. It ended up really bad and we broke up. I kept going on with my life, and after some years I got a decent job. Enough to solve all my needs, have a comfortable life and make some savings. The thing is, a couple months after getting my job, my ex contacted me. She first asked me to talk. I believed that she may want to reconnect or something. But she showed up with a 5-year-old child, claiming he was my son and demanding for child support. I didn't believe her, but the child age matched the time since we cut contact. I got advice from a lawyer, a friend of mine, to try to solve this out of the court. I offered to take responsibility, pay all the costs and being an active part of the kid's life, only after making a DNA test. Everyone was okay with this except for my ex. She acted offended and demanded to just give her the money she deserved. She used all the excuses she could, even contacted my family to told them I was trying to avoid taking responsibility of her child. When she run out of excuses, and the DNA test was finally made, and surprise, I'm not the father. She was so mad with the result, and cried about the money, saying it was unfair and she deserved it. But she didn't accomplish anything. Moving on to the last week, there was a little party on my parents' house. My brother, a friend and I were talking, and my brother started to joke about the situation with my ex. My friend and I started to joke about it too. Some of our comments were a little dark and bad, but we were far away from the rest of the people. Literally we were on the opposite side of the house, and nobody else could hear us. At least that was what we thought. We were laughing like crazies when my sister appeared very angry and pushed me against the wall. She spied us and heard our conversation and she was really mad. She started to yell at us about how horrible people we were for being mocking of a poor woman. Few hours later, when the party ended, she asked me to go to the kitchen with our parents, and she started to say how awful I was for the previous situation. Apparently, my ex had been in contact with her, and she believed her version, and that was her way to have an intervention. My brother and I were like, "Are you serious?" When she started to say how I forced my ex into be a single mother and that I have the moral obligation to help her, my dad only said that we maybe were being too cruel making jokes of her, but that I wasn't responsable for that kid. My mom then surprised all of us when she said, even if the kid is not yours, you are making more than enough money to support that child, you should have helped her. Since then, I had been receiving texts. My dad and my brother are on my side, saying I'm not responsable for her, but my sister is telling me how horrible I am for being ruining their lives. My mom only said it's your decision and I respect it. I'm just very disappointed that you ended up being so selfish. I'm aware that she doesn't deserve my money and I'm not planning to give her any, but the constant harassment of my sister trying to guilt me, it's just exhausting. More info, we're not from the US. Just to get that out of the way. Now, from what I know, she found out about my situation from a friend of hers who is dating one of my friends. She thinks that, as a man, I should take responsibility for her because I have a better income than her, and as we used to date, I owe her that, even if I'm not the father. Honestly, I don't know why my mom took her side. Our relationship wasn't good. She used to be too controlling and even became a little abusive. So I don't know why she cares about her so much. Anyway, I'm not planning to give her anything. After all this, I don't want to know anything about her. Update, my ex demanded me for child support for a kid that is not mine. My mother and sister are on their side. It's been a while. After my last post, I read all the comments, and decided to show them to my mother. We had to talk about the situation. Again, she started on my ex's side, but after reading the post and all the comments and opinions, she realized she was wrong. I think the thing that hurted her the most was all the doubts about if she'd cheat on my dad and I wasn't his son, and if that was the reason if she was on her side. We had a very long conversation. She told me that she believed my ex because she was always so nice and kind with her, that she decided to don't believe me when I told her all the things she did to me during the relationship, because a good girl like her could never do something like that. So, I must be lying. After that, she apologized to me. We are good now. On the other side, my sister. At first she decided that she wouldn't talk to me until I'll take responsibility, but after some days I talked with her. She is totally on her side, even after showing her everything. She said that none of that matter, because a woman's word go first, and that's all the proof anyone could need. Also, she said that even if you are not the biological father, you have an effective responsibility with her, so, you must be man enough to take charge of them and start acting like a real man. She was a lost cause. About my ex, I did some research, and I found out that, shortly after we broke she started dating another guy, or maybe she was cheating me with him before. I'm not sure. They broke some weeks later, and she had multiple dates until she found she was pregnant. I also found that she had been trying to find a father to her kid for the last 2 years, and I was the next on the list, but looks like she is desperate now, because she was never that aggressive with any other one before. Now, the reason of this post. Some days ago, my ex and my sister came to my workplace. They made a big sign with my face, that says he abandoned his child and irresponsible father, and started a drama, saying all their bullshit. Their intention was to shame me and use the social pressure to force me to take charge of them. They literally said it. To don't make the story too long, they were taken out of the place. I got problems for that scandal. Even after showing all the proofs and legal documents that show they were lying, I was earned that this better never happen again or I'll be fired. After that I contacted my friend, the lawyer, and we are now redacting a very long and detailed paper against them. My ex and my sister too. They were too far. Now I'm going against them with everything. Maybe that scared them enough to leave me alone. Update 2. My ex demanded me for child support for a kid that is not mine. My mother and sister are on their side. Hi everyone, and sorry for the lack of news. Last week's had been crazy with a lot of stuff, but I think now is a good moment to update you all. First of all, I'm not allowed to talk a lot about the lawsuit. The most I can share to you is that my ex was extremely freaked out when she knew about it. She is now begging to drop it. She offered to take back everything she said, to never bother or even contact me again. She even tried to guilt me saying that I would be ruining her and her son's life. But honestly I don't care. I got tired of being the good guy long time ago. She messed with me, now I'm fighting back. And for my sister, the lawsuit at first only made her worse. As her attempt to shame me and my job didn't work as good as she wanted, she moved it to social media, spreading her BS about me abandoning my child or not taking responsibility, and exposing my legal actions like acts of censorship and misogyny. But at the end, that will be worst for her, not only because I can dismiss her defamation easily, but also is more evidence to our favor. Anyways, this is going to be a long road, and we are just beginning. Recently, we had a posada on my parents' home. Every year we use this excuse to make a big family party before Christmas. I had my doubts, because I didn't want it to be near my sister, but after some relatives assured me that she wouldn't be there, I decided to go. Big mistake, she was there. Mom decided that, despite everything that happened, I was taking all this too far, so she wanted all us to meet to solve this problem as a family. I tried to get out of there the moment I realized what she intended, but some relatives tried to stop me while my mom cried that I needed to stop, that I was tearing apart the family and needed to learn to forgive and let go. I realized that, despite everything, even knowing I was telling the truth, she was still on my sister's side. I got out there, saying her that I'm not attending any family event again if she is there, and to don't ever think on trying this BS again. At this point, almost all my family knows what she did. Some of them think my sister is crazy, some other think she is crazy but I'm taking it too far. A couple days ago, Mom invited me to spend Christmas with them. I didn't want it to go after what she did, but I decided to give her a chance after she swore that wouldn't happen again. But not only she had planned to do it again, my brother warned me that this time she intended to lock me in until I forgive my sister and stop the nonsense. I called my mom and told her I knew and that I was done with her and my sister. To don't talk to me until she realized she supported the wrong person, and to apologize. I don't need to say how many times she tried to call me the following hours, and all the drama she made when I didn't show up for Christmas, but, again, I'm tired of being the good guy. So, that's it for the moment. Hope all you had a nice Christmas and I wish you for a happy and drama-free new year. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Parents found out I'm well off after my brother hired a private investigator and now they are treating me like I'm their golden child. I am the middle child of a family of 3 siblings that grew up in a small town. My father is a hard-working, but emotionally inaccessible man who is looking at retiring soon. My mother is a kowtowing housewife from a traditional conservative and religious background. They raised me, and I love them, but they have always considered me a disappointment. My older brother is the golden child. He's 40, married to a completely vapid and quiet woman. They have 2 boys, both into sports, punching, and I think they are complete brats. My brother's job has been mainly selling cars, and he works at a dealership nearby. He went to college, got an MBA, all paid for by my parents. As a kid, he was very abusive towards me, and got away with it for the most part. As an adult, he took on this I am a mentor to the handicapped attitude around me, like I am mentally deficient, and should be grateful to his charity towards me. Most of his advice is just abuse in another form or a chance to boast about his cars, big house, trophy wife, 2 athletic kids, powerboat, ATVs, and all that. I was the kid who cried too much and made excuses. To be fair, I didn't do that well in school. I was bullied, picked on, and made fun of because I wasn't a huge redneck jock like most kids in this town. I have asthma, which my parents don't believe is a real thing, suffered depression since I can remember, and was never able to run in a straight line, much less toss around a football. My parents were always expressing their frustration and why I was never as smart or outgoing as my brother. I graduated school with a disappointing 2.5 GPA, used my own money to go to college, but dropped out on the second year. This was always brought up to me in conversation. My little sister was a golden princess. I don't have much to say about her, because I moved out of the house when she became a teenager, so I feel like most of my feelings about her come from an adult point of view. She's not a bad person, just a little spoiled. She engages with the abuses my parents and brother use on me, but it's mostly parroting, I think, to avoid being the low one on the totem pole. She married at 19, had a grand wedding, and has 3 kids of her own. The only one I like is her middle child, and I am sure it's projected sympathy, because she reminds me of what it was like to be the middle child, and she is always getting picked on. I was always an antisocial and awkward nerd. After I dropped out of college, I worked at a gaming and comic book store, which has been out of business for over 7 years, but my parents kept using it in present tense. While there, I met a fellow geek who was looking to start a tech business, and he and I started a support business that grew and grew. Eventually, he sold the company to a bigger company that had to buy me out. They did so with cash and stock, and then their stock did really well. During this time, I invested or created some extra business interests, with a lot of them being lucrative. Without getting too much into it, I am currently worth 7 figures of assets and currently work as a CTO of another private startup. But I don't live extravagantly, because I don't need to. I drive a 15-year-old Saturn, live in a 2-bedroom house, albeit in a nice neighborhood, and all my furniture is second-hand. I am still single, see a therapist, and I am busy most of the time. I have to fight alcoholism, which my parents do not support whatsoever, because they think that it's all in my head like the asthma and depression. My parents expect me to be at dinner every Sunday, but they live at the other end of the state, a 90 to 120 minute drive each way, and that takes up most of my Sunday, half my weekend. But they just assume as a single mental case, as my brother calls me, openly, I don't have anything better to do. For 3 hours, I had to endure everything from coerced praise of my brother's latest big sale, to being told advice on how to live my life, grow up, get married, and be an adult for once. If I skip a dinner, I'll hear about it next dinner. My parents haven't said I am a moocher per se, but it's implied, which always puzzles me. In fact, I never have a good answer for my therapist as to why I still kept going. Because any success I have had is belittled or redefined in some negative light. I haven't exactly shared my life with anyone back home. Until very recently, everyone still thought I worked in that gaming store. My life of retail sluggishness was compared to the outgoing and go-getter lifestyle of my brother, who had a real job like a grown-up. Games and comics were kids' stuff. Anytime I mention technology of any kid, my brother talks over me like I haven't a clue, and I have long since learned to just let him. It's very obvious that he's full of shit, but I feared calling him out because then I'd have to explain how I know that, and then I'd have to explain how what I do, and I guess I was afraid they'd belittle that and it would affect everything. I am a hot mess. Last month, however, it changed, because my brother got hold of some of my personal data from mom and dad. He hired some private investigator company to give them a report on me as a person under the pretense it was an employer background check. My guess is that they were going to have an intervention of some sort. But what they found shocked them. They found my net worth, where I lived was not exactly a room in some shanty, and some other things I wanted to keep private. Because I deal in security, I got alerts of some unauthorized credit pulls. And long story short, I figured out what had happened. I was so angry, I hired that same agency to look up their net worth and assets. Needless to say, my brother was living way outside his means, has several arrests for DWI and public drunken conduct over the years, a few domestic disturbance calls, a file with CPS, but no current charges, scheduled IRS back payments, and has 3 mortgage loans on his house. His credit is in the shitter. My parents were modest and had very little outside of what I already knew. Boring and actually quite sensible in comparison. I didn't even look up my sister. When I came to dinner, I was looking to burn down some bridges. However, what I came into was even more depressing. My parents treated me completely different. They awkwardly fawned over me like I was always the golden child, and this caused my brother to lose his shit halfway through dinner. He tried to compete with me by possibly making up stories about recent commissions and a promotion, and I merely said that these were good things because of all the IRS tax issues, loans, and overextended credit. He denied all of it. I handed him a copy of my report, and said it was he who inadvertently suggested that agency when he pulled mine. I have to confess, that felt good for a few minutes of my life. My parents scolded him with dramatic shock, but it was obvious they were in on it. 2. They had to have given him the social security number. For 1. It was sickening, and I got no joy over the fight. I felt like I couldn't define the disdain I had for my family until this moment. They were all greedy cowards. The next hour they threw each other under the bus while I just kept quiet when I could. Sometimes they'd turn to me, and I'd give nonchalant single-word answers, or shrug a lot. My sister, her husband, my brother's wife, and all 5 kids just sat dumbfounded because nothing like this had ever happened before. Usually it's pretty quiet and predictable. My mother starts the conversation. My father grunts a lot. My brother boasts a lot. His wife boasts a lot. My brother and sister say what they are up to if they get the chance. And here and there will be some jabs at how I should look up to my brother and be a real man. Now it was my mom and dad and my brother screaming about all this old news. Like shit that happened to the family 20-30 years ago. And whose fault it really was. Like everything unraveled in an MMA free-for-all. Every stupid thing I felt about them was validated. And I feel like I should feel happy or have a sense of justice. But frankly, I feel terrible. I don't think I handled it well. I knew they were awful people. What was I hoping to accomplish by dragging my brother's dirty linen out? Now his kids know. For Chris' sake. It ended when my brother, red in the face with fury, blamed me for causing all the problems in this family in one huge summary. You should have never been born. You could tell my mom and dad were trying to shush him in a panic. Something I have never seen them do before that night. But they never acknowledged how they treated me before. I got up at some point and told them I was tired of them all, and I wasn't coming back to dinner anymore. Then my parents accused me of withholding from them. They said some niece or nephew had some ailment I could have fixed and turned a blind eye. I was never aware of these things, and no one asked me for help. Frankly, I think they were making it all up on the spot, but I didn't say that. We thought you worked at a comic book store. No, I stopped correcting you 10 years ago. It hasn't been in business since 2011, something I mentioned more than once. Ugh. How these narcissists rewrote history was beyond appalling and straight to embarrassing. I finally just walked out and drove home. I have mixed feelings. I feel kind of violated that now they know how much I am worth, and there is definitely going to be pressure to pay them back because I saw them do this to my brother. I don't want to deal with that. Yes, I am grateful my mom and dad gave me hot food, fresh water, and my own bed to sleep growing up. Yes, we went to amusement parks every summer. And, no, I was not beaten by my parents at least, but I was definitely not their favorite, and I feel like any accomplishment I have had as an adult was done in spite of my upbringing. I grew up with them looking the other way when my brother punched me, kicked me, and verbally abused me, even if they think verbal abuse is not a real thing. I feel like I am just done. I know they are my family, but I am just so done with them all. I don't want them to die or anything. I just want to completely cut ties with them and close that chapter in my life. Of course, if I get a girlfriend and want to get married and have kids, how am I going to approach that?